there it is, the result of about 2 hours worth of work. It's probably enough wood to take us in the winter time, maybe a couple of weekends, maybe a bit more. Dollar value, $70 or something like that. Not terribly impressive, I must say, but I have to admit that it feels really good. More or less, I was able to do this work in about the same amount of time and with reasonable, with the same amount of effort that I would have taken when I was healthy. So in many ways, I am approaching some sense of normal again. So the healing from the surgery, it's probably taken most of its course. I suspect I won't get too much better than the way I am now, but where I am now is not too bad. It's nowhere near what my fitness capacity used to be before all this came down, but you know, it's not too bad for a 61-year-old guy. There aren't a lot of people who can say, hey, you know, I'm pretty handy with a chainsaw and I can spot dead trees and cut it up and turn it into firewood. And later on in the winter, that firewood will turn into some pretty fun cooking for our family. Everything we enjoy an awful lot. This little milestone is a pretty good one. That sense of normalcy just feels really real, if not visceral right now. And when you're going through this disease, that's the kind of thing you crave. I mean, of course, there are people who are much more concerned and worried, and they should be. It's a serious matter. But once I got over the fact that this is really a one-way street, and the big question is, how long is this road? Once I got over the big question, came to some grips with it, it became a lot easier just to find some contentment in these little milestones and this sense of normalcy. It's not normalcy, it's a sense of normalcy is good. For example, this past week was actually quite a fun week for Sharon and me. We took a few days of a break in Toronto. Now, I grew up in Toronto, but I never really knew it. You know, I was a teenager or younger back then, and then I moved away and never really went back to see the amazing development. But we did a bit of that. We checked out some neighborhoods. We caught up with some friends from my high school and earlier. That was a lot of fun. And in general, just checked out what has happened to the city and how people live there. Not as a naive teenager like I was, but more as responsible adults. So that was a lot of fun. Also, it was in context of us doing helping our daughter a little bit. She was called to a business trip for her new company and needed some help to watch her new kittens. So we spent some time watching her kittens and her house as well. And so we even got to check out the wonderful city of Mississauga in some detail, Port Credit to be exact. But all of that super mundane things that if you aren't going through the kind of things that Sharon and I are going through, probably just passes by you. In fact, it probably goes to the bottom of your list as the important things in your life. For me, it just goes right up to the top. And I can compare it to pretty big fat deals and milestones that have passed through my life. And I would take this week over those any day. And I will take the achievement of that small pile of wood over many of those things. Last week, we had to deal with a broken water heater. And it's not like the kind of water heater that most of you probably are familiar with. It's a solar water heater, and the boiler portion of it requires a motor to pump some fluid. And it broke, and I had to replace it. And it was a pretty interesting experience. And in the end, it wasn't perfect because there were some problems that I had inherited from the past with this motor. But in the end, it works. We have hot water again. And I learned something new. Another milestone. Another DIY miracle in my books. And finally, these horrible things. I don't know, a while back, I talked to you a little bit about how we catch excess rainwater, the stuff that we do not capture for regular domestic use, but we capture for garden use. And it was a total mess before. And about a year ago, I was kind of bummed out that a whole bunch of stuff needed to be done. Anyways, long story short, it's done now. It may not look like much, but we now have plenty of external storage for gardening. And speaking of gardening, we've been able to spend a bit of time in it. Now I'm going to show you the first part. This is what I call the feral portion of the garden. The garden, when it was originally designed, before we actually got the house, it was designed by some pretty talented people to be something called a permaculture garden, something that can sustain itself without having all sorts of effort into fertilizers and all machines and things like that. Anyways, we didn't have time or the knowledge to deal with that. So for the most part, we let it go wild. The bees absolutely love it, and other insects. So right now we have enough space that will likely keep it that way until we really figure out what to do. But it's just, it's part of the overall effort on our part to deal with the critical issue of food. Okay, so this part is the nice part. So Sharon's been working pretty hard to turn another part of the garden into something much more familiar to all of you, a regular vegetable garden. And we have a bunch of things in there. And some friends gave us some plants, and also we got some seeds and things. Again, we're not spending a ton of time, and there's a lot of ugliness in there. But you know what? We actually got time to work with it. The weather's been cooperating. We're hopeful that not so much we're going to get a whole bunch of vegetables that are great this year, but that we will learn a few more things about having a place like this. Again, one little thing, like having a garden cleaned up a little bit, having a few more vegetables come in and have us eat it without spending a ton of money on all sorts of extra tools and things. That's pretty cool. So there's tons of things like this in this place. It goes without saying that this has helped me a lot. This week I had the first of my follow-up CT scans, and I'll get one every 3 months. And each time they're going to inspect the images to see if any new lumps, bumps, anomalies, anything that shouldn't be there is there. And if there isn't, then I get another 3 months of peace. You know this, I covered it in the previous video. And as much as I would love to think that, yeah, I can beat this, it doesn't work that way. And chances are very high that I'll deal with something. And the timing may be clean for a little while. But at some point, I'm going to be dealing with at least treatment, if not something a little bit more in your face. So it it's that time again when I have to deal with the medical system. So yesterday I was at the hospital. I was getting my images, and it's not just going and getting a picture taken. There's IVs and blood tests and all of that. In a couple of weeks, we're going to see the oncologist again. And at that point, it will be roughly 3 months from when the surgery was deemed successful. So I'll report back to see how that goes. The good news is this will become routine. Hopefully, many more cycles will show absolutely nothing, and I'll be able to go and keep looking for interesting, if not incredibly dull things to do and to note as major milestones in my life. And one final one before I sign off, our roses are out. So this is all Sharon's doing, not me, but definitely it really helps to have things like this. So in any case, welcome back to our place, and it was great to share a moment in the woods with you once again, and I will see you again soon. Cheers.